Welcome to my Inspiring Better Health podcast series. In this series, I'm going to travel around the world. I'm going to put my money where my mouth is. I'm going to spend whatever it takes to interview the best doctors, the best scientists, the best nutritionists, to bring you the real truth, the real answer to how you get the most out of life, how we live as healthy as possible for as long as possible, how we effortlessly lose weight, how we just simply feel better every day, happier every day, without the need for the pills, the medication, and all those visits to our GP. As we travel, join us and learn and get inspired to really take control of your own health. Welcome to episode 1. Now, this first episode, I'm going to fly solo. No guests on this first one. I'm going to talk about my new book, The Fibre First Diet. I'm also going to keep episode 1 really short because I'm sure many of you watching have already got my book or heard about the book or have been following it in the newspapers or social media or wherever. And also I'm sure The Fibre First will come up with many of my guests. For those that aren't aware of this new diet, the Fibre First Diet, let me quickly explain to you what it's all about. Let me tell you straight away that fibre is a superhero in the world of nutrition. It's a superhero that you're probably not that aware about. People may have heard of it a little bit, but don't really understand fibre. Why? Well, it's been suppressed. It's been hidden from you. Why? Because it's the Achilles heel of the food industry. What do I mean by that? Well, fibre slows down food absorption, and by doing that you eat less food. That means you spend less money, therefore the food manufacturers don't like it. Also, by having more fibre, it stops you craving foods, and by not craving foods, that's not good for the people that make packaged foods, foods in a supermarket, your fast foods, your takeaways. It's not good if you don't crave it. And if you don't crave it, you eat less of it, and fibre curbs cravings. It even curbs addiction, as you'll read in the book. So fibre is not good news to the food industry. So much so, not only have they been removing it from virtually all their products, they've even been breeding fruit so it has less fibre in it when you consume the fruit. So you're really lacking fibre. And yet throughout history, our 2 million years of evolution, you would never have had sugar on its own without fibre. Fibre effectively is nature's antidote to sugar. If you were right now to quickly maybe Google fibre because you weren't sure about what it did, Google would spurt out a load of answers, a load of links to things around digestion and toilet time and how fibre regulates toilet time, makes things run more smoothly downstairs. But that's the tip of the iceberg. I've been helping the likes of Gemma Collins. I've reversed her PCOS, polycystic ovary syndrome, and she won't mind me telling you this because it's been in all the newspapers. She's quite excited that the fact she's reversed this quite serious condition by just putting fibre at the beginning of her meal. So it's not just about regulating toilet time. And in fact, if you go onto the NHS website, buried deeply on the NHS website, it clearly says, up your fibre to help reduce the risk of heart disease, reduce your risk of type 2 diabetes and certain cancers. They even recommend that you should have 30 grams a day, but we know that hardly anybody in the UK currently consumes 30 grams a day. So, what do we know about fibre other than toilet time? Well, it makes you feel full for longer, so you eat less food, therefore you effortlessly lose weight. By also slowing down the release of the food that you eat, you don't get such a big sugar spike, therefore you don't get such a big insulin spike to deal with the sugar spike, therefore your chance of almost any chronic illness starts to decrease. I've even got a tree called the tree of insulin resistance that I designed a couple of years ago that shows how everything from migraines to ADHD to gout to diabetes to certain cancers, how even the likes of bipolar disease, anxiety, depression, all of these things can be related to one thing, which is insulin resistance. And one thing that drives insulin resistance is a lack of fibre. And you might go, oh, that all sounds a bit far-fetched. Well, if you were to take research from anybody and believe anybody's research, who would it be? Would it be research funded by the big food companies? Probably not. probably leaning towards their own vested interest. Big pharmaceutical industry? Almost definitely not. How about this? How about if a life insurance company started to do research, would you listen to theirs if it was about how to live healthier for longer? Of course you would. Their job is to keep you, they make money only by keeping you alive. Same as your health insurance companies. They only make money by you being healthy. That's the only research really you should ever listen to. Swiss Re, one of the biggest life insurance companies in the world, have now taken my tree. They've even put it on Twitter. They literally copied it verbatim, spreading the word that all these illnesses relate to insulin resistance. And therefore, if you can get rid of insulin resistance, and most people in the UK, most adults have to a certain degree got insulin resistance. They might not have full-blown diabetes yet. But in America, for example, they think 93% of adults have got a metabolic condition. That means only 7 out of 100 are healthy. But again, we digress. Putting fibre first reduces your sugar spike. And by reducing your sugar spike, you just ward off illness and at the same time effortlessly lose weight. Let me, though, talk about the main reason I wrote the book. And that was to help people beat obesity, because it's starting to become a real problem, certainly in the UK and the modern countries. It really is becoming a big, big issue. To the extent that 6 out of 10 adults in the UK every single year try and go on a diet. 6 out of 10, that's a lot of people. Many of them more than once a year. Maybe that's you. It was certainly me for many, many years. I was obese for 30 years, and I wasn't that I was lazy. I was always trying to diet, but it never worked. In fact, statistically, only 1 person in every 100 people are successful on a diet. And that's crazy if you think about it, because in 100 people, you're going to have doctors, super bright people, scientists, you're going to have professors, teachers, business leaders, directors, managers, really bright people. Most will have degrees. And yet, we're not getting any healthier. We can't work out this simple thing of losing weight. And that's because we've all missed the point. And the point is this: we've had fibre stripped from our diet, which means we get exposed to sugar without the natural antidote, and therefore we find it almost impossible to lose the weight. Imagine a world where, in my book, and the evidence now says, it is not about what you take out of a diet, it's what you put back into the diet. In other words, what I'm proposing is not a diet based on subtraction, which is every other diet ever written, which goes completely against our hormones and the way our brain functions to give things up that we like. I'm not proposing that. I'm saying by eating fibre at the beginning, and it can be flavoursome fibre, which we'll talk about in a moment. In fact, the Sun newspaper a couple of weeks ago published a story about a hot chocolate that I designed that was full of fibre and tastes amazing. By putting that before your meal, you can almost eat what you want. In other words, I'm not saying you should take anything out of the diet. Certainly not at the beginning. No, it's not about subtracting food, it's about adding food. That's never been talked about in a diet before. It is not about carving things out. What I'm proposing is, as long as you put fibre, and it can be really fun and gorgeous and delicious at the beginning of your meal, you can pretty much have what you want. You're stepping into a world where nothing's banned from the plate as long as you have the fibre first. If that all sounds too good to be true, I could kind of understand it. And most even doctors that I spoke to over the years working and researching the book, and by the way, I did something that virtually no other book has ever done, is I spent millions of pounds in research and writing that book, traveling the world, meeting all these people to find the truth. And I'm going to carry on doing it for this podcast series. You know, if I'd done it with a book publisher, they might give me, I don't know, £100,000 advance or a £50,000 advance. They wouldn't certainly go, there's a couple of million quid, go and see if your hypothesis works. But that's what I did, because I really was passionate about getting to the truth about health. My mum has terrible Alzheimer's. My dad has got diabetes type 2, out of control. My lovely auntie died of cancer in her 50s. 3 of my grandparents died of cancer. I was obese for 30 years, and I wanted to get to the truth. And the truth is this: dysregulation of sugar is causing 8 out of 10 premature deaths in the modern world. 8 out of 10 people that die before their 80s, their 90s prematurely are because of a dysregulation of sugar. All the evidence is in the book, all the research is in the book. 8 out of 10. That's incredible. But if simply putting fibre helps you regulate sugar, you're going to reduce your risk of all these horrible diseases. It is as simple as that. Anyway, back to the research. 2015, Cornell in America, probably the gold standard in research. They took a group of people and they looked at what they were already about to eat. They identified on this meal where the fibre was, and they said, right, just change the order on the plate. So they had the fibre first, then they had the fat and the protein, and left the carbohydrates, the sugar, till the end. The result was a 28% drop in the spike of sugar. The world went crazy. It sent like this ripple effect around the world of nutrition and health. In fact, the government, the NHS, the very next year increased the amount of fibre that they recommend we should have in the diet. They put it up by 5 grams. Sadly, nobody's listening, because most people, virtually nobody, gets the 30 grams a day. And yet it's so easy to do when you know how to do it. So straight after that research, Cornell, then the NHS, and then other research centres, one in Asia, one in Japan, started to do the same research. What happens if you just change the order of the food around, put the fibre first, and everybody was getting the same result? Your blood sugar spike doesn't go so high, and if it doesn't go so high, insulin doesn't go so high, and if insulin doesn't go so high, you don't become insulin resistant, and your chances of all these horrible diseases start to diminish. But nobody's talking about it because it's not convenient for the big food companies, and of course if we don't get ill, that's certainly not convenient for the pharmaceutical industry. So this simple thing has been forgotten. What I do in the book is I help you identify things that will help you put fibre at the beginning. Things as beautiful and delicious and tasty as taking, say, peanut butter, putting some chocolate powder in it, adding milk. That'll give you around 7 grams of fibre. Now, you can pretty much eat what you want and your blood sugar won't spike so much. Is that hearsay? Because a lot of people at first, when I told them you could do that, went, nah, that doesn't work. So, okay, I'll do my own trial. We'd got the Cornell study, we'd got the government talking about it on the NHS, we'd got the studies in Asia and Japan, but I thought, no, let's do my own study, because let's do a real world study. So I took 10 volunteers, I fitted them with a continuous glucose monitor, and over 10 days we did what we called pair testing. Whatever they ate day 1, the next day they had to eat the exact same food, but put fibre first, and we measured what happened to their blood sugar levels. And we did all the popular foods. So breakfast day 1 for all the volunteers was they could choose a cereal, their normal cereal. The only thing we did, we let them pour it and we weighed it before they ate it, and we measured what happened to their blood sugar level. The next day, day 2, part of the first pair, what they had to do was have exactly the same cereal, but we gave them a fibre drink first. Then they poured their cereal and we measured the blood sugar spike. Then day 3 and 4, we went to a fast food chain that sells kind of a burgery type thing. Oh, what the hell? McDonald's. We let them choose from McDonald's what they wanted for breakfast. They ate it, we measured their blood sugar level. Day 4, we made them have exactly the same McDonald's, but before we put fibre first. And then we did the same with Greggs, we did the same with Subway. We did the same with a full English breakfast, even to see what happened. And surprisingly, on a full English breakfast, hardly anybody got a sugar spike. All this is in the book, by the way, the Fibre First Diet. We did the same at lunchtime. We went to a pizza place, let them choose what pizza they want, and we measured their blood sugar level. But the day after, we got them to take a fibre drink and then have the pizza. And across the 10 days, across the 10 volunteers, across all the typical foods consumed in the UK, on average, by putting the fibre first, so this is different to the external research where they just changed the order, we were adding fibre first. By adding the fibre first, on average, across breakfast and lunches, the sugar spike in their blood was almost half when they put the fibre first. Now that is a significant difference that certainly puts you in a position where it's much easier to lose weight and really helps ward off those chronic illnesses. So I'm going to end this first episode by saying to take control of your own health. One of the simplest things you can do is to get hold of my book, of course, but beyond that, go on my website, healthresults.com, and have a look at all the foods that are rich in fibre and try and prioritise that at the beginning of your meal. Do that and you will reduce the sugar spike. Now, you might say, surely there are benefits by cutting out the crap and cutting out the excess sugars and. And you're right. You're absolutely right. But we also know, if I was just to tell you to reduce those things, it doesn't work. Because diets have been telling you to reduce things for a long, long time, for 40, 50 years, and it's not worked. Less than 1% of people are successful. So I'm not telling you not to eat anything. I'm telling you to add. But then what you will find, and this is what we're seeing now time and time again, because you're not being told not what to eat, what to leave, to cut out. We're saying eat what you want, but have fibre first. What then happens, as you start to feel full, as your cravings start to disappear because of the fibre, you naturally stop eating the things that are sugar loaded. Naturally. They start to lose their appeal. Your taste buds begin to change. So naturally now, you start to cut out those things. And then that weight loss that you had started by putting fibre first starts to really accelerate. And for many people, blood pressure starts to drop. Their blood sugar levels certainly start to plummet. They start sleeping better. Their resting heart rate gets better. And it just gets better and better. All by simply starting your diet by putting fibre first. So that's the end of the first podcast. In the rest of the series, Inspiring Better Health, not only is that the title, that's exactly what we're going to try and do. I'm going to travel around the world. I'm going to find the best scientists, the best doctors, the best professors, those people that are in their laboratories day in, day out, sort of doing the latest research, up-to-date research of how we live healthier and happier for longer. Together we'll go on this journey. We'll learn from the best, brightest brains, where a lot of their research that they've been doing just gets covered up because it's not convenient for the big food companies, it's not convenient for the big pharmaceutical companies. But together we'll get to the answer of how we live healthier, happier, really have sort of good movement and good mind into our real later years. Join me on this journey as into inspired better health, and I promise you a podcast series that will make a world of difference for you.